Hey, and welcome back to File New, the best source of creator, artist, and tech news on Adobe Live. My name is Ryan Selvy, and today is Wednesday, May 1st. Today on the show, what do we got for you? We've got the Mona Lisa. She's getting her own room. The biggest camera in the world is being built and moved over to Chile. We've got something for you if if you're missing that sweet. Sorry, I'm noticing that this is off to the side. We've got something for you if you're missing your coworkers too much and you're feeling a little less lonely. We have a Jim Henson documentary is coming out next month. And Adobe is working on scaling your videos up to 8 times bigger. People in Detroit got tricked by an AI image. George Mason University got a rebrand, and a whole lot more. Unfortunately, Allie is not with us this week, so you're stuck with me for the next hour, losers. Let's hop on into news. All right, so let's start off with some actual show news for the File News show. So one of the first things that I want to actually just address is the fact that we will be using Raindrop.io for the links for all the events. Now, if you are familiar with the show, we go through a lot of different links. We talk about a bunch of different stories. Often the mods are really great about putting the links into the chat. But then if you want to watch it after the fact, you have to then go into the show notes. And from the show notes, you have to then kind of find out the link that you're looking for, kind of try to match a matching image, and then go to it. We're going to start using Raindrop.io for every episode, and from there you'll be able to go and you'll see all the links from not only this episode, but previous episodes as well. I have gotten the last 2 episodes up so far, and it's going to take some time to add some older episodes, so please just bear with me as I do that. It'll be a gradual pace, but moving forward, all of the episodes will have their own section of Raindrop.io. You don't need an account to check it out. You should be able to go there. You'll also be able to just check the different hyperlinks, news, rebrand, all as tags. So you can just go and you can click the tag and you can either watch it across all boards, or you can look for it just specific to an episode. Let me know how the experience is for you guys and if this is something that's helpful or just too many steps. Keeping it in the family, since we're talking about ourselves, let's keep the ball rolling with some Adobe news. Adobe unveiled a new research paper on artificially enhanced poor quality video that's upscaled. It's naming the new technological process Video Gigacam, which kind of sounds like a Transformer, like Megatron and Video Gigacam fight the Decepticons. But it's not available in any products at the time of broadcast, nor does it have any sort of like release date for it. But the research is exciting. The process builds upon the large-scale image upsampler Gigacam, which is where some of the name comes from. Over my shoulder, you can see the low-res video and then kind of scroll on to the idea of the higher res. It just, as always, important to clarify that when you enhance an image, it is making calculations and ideas based off of what it sees and the image that it has. It's not revealing things that are secretly there. You can't do like a NCIS situation where you press enhance and then all of a sudden you can see the license plate. It doesn't work like that. But this is really good, especially for if you have footage that is from an older time or is like not the best quality, but you want to include it with your other footage. I'm hoping that this will one day make it into Premiere. But most importantly, it is created to prevent hallucinations, which hallucinations are the things in large language models and these new AI models that when it just kind of makes things up, or creates artifacts, flickering, other common video upscaling issues and distortions, meaning you won't accidentally give your dog an extra tail if it is just upscaling it from a small thing. Maybe one day we'll be able to restore all those videos I recorded on my Motorola Razr with, probably like a 30 by 30 pixel video resolution. But does all this artificial intelligence talk stress you out at all? Don't worry. Google said it's all good for now. Savannah Fortis from Cointelegraph reported on a newly published study by Google, and the study is called Generally Faster, the Economic Impact of Generative AI. It was conducted by Andrew McAfee, the principal research scientist at the MIT Sloan School of Management. And his findings claim that there is no straight line between the spread of powerful tech and unemployment, and no signs of changing in the short run due to technical limitations. Savannah Fortis reports that the study cited previous works in 2023 that administered hundreds of questions about skills to both humans and top-performing AI systems. On average, humans scored 92% correct answers, while machines came in at only 15%. Google has likened artificial intelligence to the steam engine and its impact on creating the Industrial Revolution. You can read the whole 24-page document linked in the raindrop we just talked about. And to make you feel even better, rest safely knowing that that Sora demo that we saw a few weeks ago wasn't entirely truthful. The famous balloon head video that made the rounds a few weeks ago, like back in February, wasn't what it was all chalked up to be. This comes from futurism journalist Maggie Harrison Dupree, which, by the way, that's a great name. Maggie Harrison Dupree. Like, it sounds regal. Apparently, a lot of rotoscoping and color shifting was necessary to get to the final product, and there were many shots that kept putting a real head back on the humanoid, and the balloon kept changing its color. So this is a soft reassurance to me, personally, that these tools won't replace artists, but will inevitably end up being tools for artists, like Premiere's generative fill tool that was announced at Sneaks a week or two ago. Which was cool because not only could you use the Sora model, which is this model, but you can also hopefully use a bunch of different models and then also use Adobe's model. But speaking of bad OpenAI news, let's continue the ball rolling with OpenAI. OpenAI announced some system memory for paying users. That means that the popular chatbot will remember details like basic information, hobbies, and prompt history. Kudos to Mark Sullivan reporting on this story for Fast Company. The announcement showcased the system remembering the service, remembering the user has a golden retriever named Teddy. A use case would be that the user then proceeds to use ChatGPT to plan a vacation, and when the ChatGPT is planning plans and places to go, it can incorporate pet accommodations into factoring the itinerary without having to go back and ask the user. The reporter, Mark Sullivan, is quick to note, though, that the process failed when he tried it out for himself. He says that he uploaded a resume to the service and then asked for help finding a job. And unfortunately, the service only gave a generic response and didn't seem to access the memory that he had just uploaded. Swift reminder that these services have a long way to go, but interesting to see. And it's interesting also to imagine the idea of these services having a memory. This puts some companies in better situations than others, just because it is a thing that some companies might already have a lot of information on you that you have voluntarily provided, and could use it in your responses, whereas, not having to fully just kind of piecemeal and give it all the information that you want it to have. Like, maybe you don't even realize that you want to notice or mention that there is a dog and that you want it in your itinerary. But if you had it somewhere else, like maybe it could pull the data that you already have your dog. Also, that does also go back to data and what is being done with the data. When Mark, the reporter, tried to delete his phone number after providing it in his resume, the system still was able to recall it 5 minutes later in a response when he was asking. Isn't it weird to think about all that data like constantly being taken from you? I know I was just saying it was a benefit of some other services, but it's one of those things that like constantly we're trying to juggle what is comfortable and what is not comfortable. Does it freak you out? No surprise. If you're like 78% of other Americans, you believe social media companies have too much political power. Amanda Silverling of TechCrunch reported on this. And a recent Pew survey has people on both sides of the aisle agreeing on their distrust in social media platforms. Pew's survey says only 16% of U.S. adults think that tech companies should be regulated less than they are now. And speaking of social media sites are historically centralized entities like Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, but the tides seem to be changing as Americans seem to be veering towards these decentralized companies or protocols with newer decentralized models like Blue Sky and Mastodon. Blue Sky is personally my favorite. You can follow me at ryanselvy.com on Blue Sky. And speaking of Blue Sky, they finally rolled out GIFs. So you might finally see some images move on your timeline. Right now, it's only Tenor GIFs for now, so you have to search for them. They have to be provided through Tenor, but uploading custom GIFs aren't integrated now, but they will be coming soon. 2 weeks ago, they also launched the ability to embed posts from the site's off-site in news articles, meaning you can link to a post from Blue Sky in a news article and it'll pop up just like a tweet. And maybe it'll help propel it into more of the public zeitgeist. They've got a lot of ground to catch up on, especially with competitors like Threads out there. Threads has no signs of slowing down. Either it has millions of daily active users, and Carissa Bell from Engadget reports Threads is giving out thousands of dollars to select users for posting onto the service. The program is an invite-only select group of people, and it varies on the amount of payout, but it's clear it's tied to performance of the threads, posts, or the amount that you post. It says that you could even make up to $5,000, and it is that for replies that get 10,000 or more views to earn up to that amount of money. In more social media news, Twitch's Discovery feed rolled out to all users on Tuesday, and Aisha Malik from TechCrunch reported on this. Essentially, a TikTok need for bite-sized content on Twitch, and it helps with the platform's discovery since the platform notoriously is difficult to find new people because of the lack of an algorithm. Interestingly enough, though, it won't be from users uploading directly to the feed like you would think of TikTok's feed or YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels. Instead, it will pull from clips on the platform that align with the platform's guidelines, they say. Users can vote up or down to show more or less of content, and that will kind of impact on what you see and what you don't see. There's two different tabs. There's one that is just streams and one that is just clips. It'll be intriguing to see what gets picked up by the service. I don't know if they have someone manually pressing the buttons to add things, but considering there are tens to hundreds of thousands of streamers on Twitch, it's hard to think that they would be able to do it all manually, but it also kind of sounds like that's something that they are doing, and it'll be interesting to see how it clips it down and how they address the issue of discoverability with streaming. I mean, even with this stream, it's difficult to get people to sit down and watch an hour, though once they do, they love it. And looking at you, Keys, see you in the chat right now. Thank you for being here. Also, a big thank you to everyone that is watching the live stream. You can get this as a podcast, but it is initially a live stream on Adobe Live. I'm also seeing, it looks like Melon plays. I was looking for my glasses before the stream and I could not find them. So if I if I mess up anyone's name and it is one or two characters off, it's because I'm not wearing my glasses. Also, Raquel is also on YouTube, and hello to Joshua, and thank you, Jack, for moderating. We'll get more into some thoughts and some feedback from you guys in just a few minutes, but we still have a bit of news to get through. We are a loaded news day today. Because you know me, and I love technology, and I love helping you guys find the best news for you for your creator. And that relationship with technology is just growing closer and closer. We talked last week a little bit about the iPad event that's happening next week, and it's happening on May 7th, and it's touted to be something entirely different. What does that mean? I have no idea. It's very clear that it's going to obviously be something that is creator related with Apple Pencil. There was rumors about the Apple Pencil not only having a squeeze function, but now there's also haptic feedback is rumored to also be with the Apple Pencil. But now there's also new reports from Philippe Esposito on 9to5Mac suggesting that the new iPad will have a M4 chip. Now, if you are not a big techie and you're like, he's talking about chips, I'm going to try to just kind of make this nice and surface level. Also, hello to CMYK. Thank you for saying you love the show. Basically, a few years ago, Apple started making their own chips for their own MacBooks, and they released M1s. And they came out, and everyone was super impressed by them. A lot of tech reviewers that I follow, video editors, they say that they got their M1 and they don't have to update, even though it was years ago. Now, traditionally, it's been M1, M2, M3, and most recently, the M2 has been in the iPad. And so basically, it's just a super fast chip. It can do a lot of things. The iPad keeps getting stronger. They're trying to figure out what they want iPads to be, whether that is editing video directly on your iPad, and it's kind of becoming this pseudo laptop thing, to also using like Photoshop, just fully fledged onto your iPad. But there are the idea is that it would be M3, but there is new evidence that suggests that they're not going to have the M3, which is the one that is currently in the MacBook, the super strong one, but they will be introducing a new chip and putting it into the iPad. Now, it will be the M4 in the iPad. This is a rumor, and Felipe points out that, or maybe it's Philip. It's Philip or Felipe. And he points to details in the most recent beta of iOS 17.5 as evidence that this is the case. I guess we'll have to wait and see on Tuesday. If you're trying to kill time, maybe play some video games. I don't know. Maybe you're into Roblox. Maybe not. But somebody out there is, because Walmart is banking on you being into Roblox. Now, the company actually launched a digital store that sells digital assets linked to physical products. As you order the digital pieces, the physical counterpart then gets mailed to you. This is the second time Walmart is trying to get into the Roblox world, and this was reported on by Zach Zwehen at Kotaku. They opened an experience in 2022, only to get shut down for not properly disclosing it as an advertisement, which is wild because it's Walmart. According to Business of Apps, Roblox made $2.7 billion in 2023 with 65 million daily active users. So maybe they're onto something. I mean, it's something that, like, it's very clearly even kind of below Gen Z. It is Gen Alpha that is coming up. But the sheer amount of people that are on Roblox, making experiences on Roblox, you can create video games and experiences and items and implement them into Roblox. Kids are making their own games on Roblox. So it's this entire new digital frontier. We also have talked a little bit about how Fortnite is doing something similar, where you can create assets and have your own experiences on Fortnite. People are experiencing these digital universes, these digital spaces that are very metaverse-like. And as creators, I think we will be asked more and more to start understanding how to implement our work into these environments, because the generation below us and the generation below them is so into these places that I think that there's going to be a huge market for it, not only just money related, but for things like, now it doesn't make sense if you don't have an Instagram or something, even as like a coffee shop. I could see something like that also kind of bleeding over into the idea of something like Roblox. There's a lot of digital people. Actually, there is 91.8% of Americans' population uses the internet. I looked that up for the story, which is 305 million people. That's a crazy number of people online just in the country. And a big group of those people are affected by a recent FCC ruling that net neutrality is back into law. Now, net neutrality was initially introduced in 2015, only to be repealed in 2017. Now, 7 years later, it's back on the books. And Lauren Feiner from The Verge reports this story. Net neutrality means not being able to discriminate against different kinds of content by blocking or throttling connection speeds or offering paid prioritization for different internet traffic. Jessica says that broadband is now an essential service. Essential services, the ones we count on in every aspect of modern life, have some basic oversight. And that's from Jessica Rosenworcel, who is on the committee that made part of the decision. But Americans are only a fraction of people online. That's something to always remember. And there is no better proof of that than to look at Snapchat and some stuff that I learned about Snapchat this week. The service, which has had mostly a stagnant member base in recent years in America and Canada, has recently skyrocketed globally. Now, Snapchat reported a 39 million annual increase in global daily active users, over 90% of which came from outside of the US and Canada. Millie Giles, David Crowther, and Sherwood reported on this for Sherwood News. The app reached 200 million monthly active users in India, home to an estimated 20% global share of Gen Z, Snapchat's primary user base. Now, I bring this up also because I have totally thrown Snapchat to the curb. I have not thought about it in a very long time. I know we talked a little bit about the TikTok legislation for the last few weeks, honestly. And there is potential that maybe Snapchat swoops in and can take the user base that is then kind of left void from any sort of issues that happen with TikTok. Because with TikTok, even if they don't get banned, a lot of marketers, places, users are starting to look elsewhere because the uncertainty of the actual platform, whether it gets sold without an algorithm, whether they shut it down entirely. People don't want to necessarily invest entirely in TikTok right now. And so all these alternatives are going to kind of swoop in a little bit, and it will obviously seriously impact the user base for TikTok. And so maybe places like Snapchat, even though they have been really taking off outside of the US, maybe it will start to pick up in the US. Now, I know we're talking a little bit about India with Snapchat. Now, it's important to also note that India banned TikTok years ago, and it's interesting that they use VPNs. It's tough to get around it, but as one of the biggest marketplaces for TikTok is America, it will be interesting to see if they follow similar patterns and end up actually also switching over to something like Snapchat. I know we're hopping all around the world, so let's move a little north from India, and let's talk about Russia for a second. So Russia's government replaced Wikipedia with a state-sponsored encyclopedia this week. Naturally, they cloned Russians' Wikipedia and blocked the original. This reporting comes from Jules Roscoe at 404 Media. The new version gives the Russian government full reign over articles and notably omits terms deemed unsafe by the government. And let's zoom out, quite literally, with some photography news. The largest digital camera in the world, the Legacy Survey of Space and Time, LSST digital camera, is being formally installed. Now, the optical lens is 5.1 feet in diameter. It is 3,200 megapixels. That is about 200 times bigger than consumer cameras, and it is a mass of 3.3 tons. It can see a golf ball from 15 miles away, which means that it can hopefully see planets and other things. The camera will take pictures across the night sky for 10 years, and this reporting comes from Doris Ellen Lurita, or Lirrlitia, at Inverse. The Rubin Observatory will produce about 20 terabytes of data every single night, and by the end of the survey, the resulting data set will be about 60 petabytes, which I don't even know how big that is, because terabyte is kind of crazy to think about, and then if you multiply that, you get 2 petabytes. It will also all be available online for people to use and research. I don't know necessarily how the Creative Commons will work for it. I don't know if that's something that will be available for anyone to use and remix. I know a lot of things like NASA tend to be for the public domain, and you can use it and have free will as far as using it in your content. But I'll keep you updated as it gets installed. I mean, just this thing looks I mean, look at that. They're next to the lens there. And if that person laid down and put their arms up, it seems like that would only then kind of cover the lens, which, you know, talk about getting a blur on your lens. Like that'd be insane. And then finally, our last piece of news for today is the Louvre Museum is going to move Mona Lisa to her own showroom. She's finally moving out. She gets her own room. She wasn't already in her own room, apparently. I did not know that. This is news to me. Apparently, she's in a room with a bunch of other people. The lines are crazy. The crowds are nuts. And reporting comes from Chloe Veltman at NPR. The Louvre's director, Lawrence Descar, said her institution is now looking at upgrading both the conditions surrounding Leonardo da Vinci's iconic Renaissance painting, as well as the overall visitor experience. This consists of moving the painting to an underground facility with 2 subterranean entry points, and the renovation is estimated at $535 million. Chloe Veltman says the Louvre is the world's most visited museum, bringing in 8 to 10 million people last year, and the Mona Lisa is by far the biggest attraction. The museum receives some 20 to 30,000 visitors daily. Fun fact, unrelated to art, the largest museum in America is the Air and Space Museum in DC, because I did a report on it in college, and I also love space, so there's that. But that is all of the headlines that we have for today. Just as a reminder, I know I said it a few minutes ago, but this is available as a podcast, so if you are not around whenever the schedule is going on, or you want to just listen to it while you're driving, it's also a video on Spotify and on iTunes for the podcast, so you can also watch it. Just don't do that while you're driving. And you can get this, you can subscribe to it, and I like to try to get it up as soon as I can. Normally it's about a day after because YouTube has to process the video, and I tend to always forget to record when I go streaming. Now, if you could do that, you just go ahead. I had linked to it below for Spotify, but just search for File New Show on any podcast platform where you listen to podcasts. And then, of course, I'd love to hear from you. Go to filenewshow@gmail.com to send us a letter, a message letting us know what you think. If you have recommendations for news articles, suggestions for spotlights or rebrands, we have a bunch of the show still ahead of us today. So let's go ahead and hop into our next segment, which is Thoughts. All right, guys, I'm going to take a second here before we hop into this fun Detroit story, just to see what you guys are saying in the chat, just because there is a lot of conversation going on. Once again, hello to Keys and Robert and Penny Doodles. It's good to have you guys here. Penny Doodles is saying Extreme Home Makeover Mona Lisa Exhibition Edition. Exhibition Edition is a fun thing to say. And Apurva PR is saying petabytes is lesser than grizzly bytes, but larger than baby bytes. Actually, you had me going for a second there. I thought you actually knew that there was like a next thing, grizzly bytes, which sounds, like a cereal. But a Google is one of the ones with huge zeros, so it could really be anything, right? And Keys is also saying that the Mona Lisa was life-changing in person. But thank you. Yeah, no, all the chat replay for YouTube is available with the YouTube replay, but I always have to try to catch the Behance one just because that one does fade away. Also, I see Raquel over on YouTube. So if you guys are also available on YouTube, make sure you make them feel a little less lonely and give them a hello. So as far as thoughts go, thoughts is a section where we talk about your guys' opinions. We talk about things that are just kind of top of mind for me. And this week we have two different stories for you. The first one is Detroit recently unveiled this new sign, and a bunch of people were super disappointed because the initial sign was posted to a news article website called Michigan Chronicle, and they used an AI image as a header image. Now, I found out this story from Armin Witt from Under Consideration's brand new blog, which we will be referencing a few times in today's show. And basically, the Michigan Chronicle posted an artificially generated image as its key art, announcing the project instead of the official concept art. And so residents who saw that article announcing the sign saw concept art that looked like giant Hollywood-style letters spelling out Detroit. And even though the installation were letters that spelled out Detroit in the end, it wasn't quite the same style or the size as portrayed in the AI image. The AI image shows letters several stories high with cars passing by. The real sign instead looks more like the size of like a car, maybe two cars stacked on top of each other. This is the real one over my shoulder. Don't get me wrong, so many of these models are getting bigger and more convincing, and the models as far as like the AI models, but often there is an air of AI generatedness to a lot of these images. And I think what surprises me a lot is the fact that it's amazing people don't clock this as much. But a few years ago, I wouldn't be able to clock it myself. But it's kind of amazing how quickly our brains are able to adapt and identify things that aren't real. This might age me, but I remember getting the GameCube back in the early 2000s, and I got Madden, and it was like Madden 2005, I think, or something. And I remember my aunt walking in the door and mistaking it for a real football game. Now, you look at this now, and you would never in forever think that this is a real game. Like you go in, and your brain immediately says those are graphics. That's not real. Now, you can tell a mile away from a GameCube game from reality, but that's not always the case with AI images, but at the same time, there kind of still is there. It just surprised me that that's not the case for everyone. There's so many people that are actually even on Facebook that are reacting to clearly AI generated images, saying that they're really cute and they're real and responding to them as if they are real, which worries me even that then once we get to the part where you can't tell at all, where are we going to go from there? Is this an artist or a non-artist thing? Like, do you think that it is like an age-related thing? Do you think that it is a like just because we're creators and we're a little bit more susceptible to it, that we're able to clock it more. I was surprised with a lot of my other podcasts. I hear them start talking about AI generated art or the different relations with it. And they're always so surprised at artists' reactions to it, which is something that I have been experiencing and talking about and hearing from people for the last like 3 years or so now. And it's so crazy to hear these podcasts and then see that it's just like people are baffled by it. So what do you think? Do you think we can just see it more because we're artists, or just because we're around it more, or is it an age thing? Do you think that the news organization should be held accountable for not disclosing an AI image? Like, I feel like that's also a big discussion. Like, can news outlets use AI images as their header images? Even if it was only initially concept art, it was the wrong concept art. So I don't know what that looks like. And I'm not saying held liability. I'm not like saying press charges or something. I'm just saying, as news sources continue to be able to use these kind of images, how do we relate with them? I don't know. And then my other thoughts is unfinished products. And the Waveform podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts on YouTube, was reviewing the Rabbit R1. I think we talked a little bit about the Rabbit R1, but there are these small little AI devices that are just shipping like this week. And you can go and basically it's linked to a large language model, Perplexity, I believe. And it has a camera, and you're going to be able to scan things and say, what is that? And then it gets back to you. It has a little screen. This is being a little similar to the Humane AI pin that came out a week or two ago, around the same thing. Doesn't have a screen. You wear it as a pin on you. This one, sorry for hitting the microphone. This one, the Rabbit, is one that you hold. It's very bright and fun. It's getting mid reviews, like not horrible, not fantastic. But it raised a conversation about unfinished products on their podcast specifically. They were talking about games, cars, hardware. Do you like having early access to unfinished products? Basically, now we're in a state where a lot of companies just get things out as quick as possible and then fix it later. So whether that's a game where you play in the beta and they're like, just, you know, you can get it for $30 cheaper, but maybe, you know, you expect a lot of bugs. Or you get this product and there are features that are not available, but they're like, we will be doing a free over-the-air update for you as it kind of gets figured out. Do you guys want to go back to the times when you got something and it never really got updated? You just got the final product? Like, think about video games from the early 2000s again. Like, there was no such thing as an over-the-air update. Like, you got the game. If it was a buggy game, that meant it was a buggy bad game, and that was the end of it. But now we kind of have this area where you can get these half-made products and they get shipped out. Even cars are getting recalled. Obviously, Tesla and stuff is having their own day in the sun as far as different recalls being just over-the-air updates. But it's not unique to only Tesla. It is all these other companies that are just trying to fix things virtually now. What do you guys think? Oh, and Keys is saying the Rabbit is actually linked to a large action model, which is slightly different than a large language model. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it. Keys says, I think people are liking it. It generates a buzz, but looking for an authentic will still be a thing. I think that might be in reference to the images. And then Raquel is also saying in the last story that I think being artists, we can be easily bothered by it, and it's understandable. Times are changing. And we'll all have to see where it goes. Oliver is saying, release now, patch later is an irritating business model, but it seems like the one that we are living in. And I don't see changing anytime soon unless consumers kind of speak up and say something about it. The thing I like about Adobe, since this is on Adobe Live, is the fact that they have the beta programs in a different tab. So if you want to download beta, you can download beta. Otherwise, you get the final release. And I personally like that because sometimes I'll go through phases where I download the beta and I'm like cool with bugs. And then other times I'm like, no, I really need something stable. I'm just going to go back to the full on release. So just something to think about. Now, let's go on and hop into our next segment, which is resources. You guys like my cough there? I didn't realize that I wasn't muted yet. Our first one today is from Tanya Kombrick from Creative Block. They recently published an article called How to Tell a Story in an Image. Now, I think this is really important to artists. The artists in the article. There are 4 of them. It asks the artist their experience of enriching images with human and narrative elements. The article features illustrator and concept artist Titus Lunter and says that interesting stories are inherently about conflict. So you want to make sure that there's conflict in your image, that you can tell a story with it visually by seeing different parts of a perspective. Watercolor illustrator Amanda A.J. Ramsey says, to first lay out the scene that will convey the familiar story to an audience, and then think about my own personal experiences and how they relate to the story I want to tell. She makes sure that you're not also misrepresenting or misappropriating things, and being true to the original artwork. Artist Kim Mayat says, I find it helpful to develop your own understanding of motifs and symbols. What do these things mean for you? And mix that into the use of a more universal symbolism. Then there is illustrator Eleanor Petria, and it says to simplify your idea, as it's easy for you to point to get lost if you use too many symbolic elements. So reference the past, understand the past, but make sure that when you're referencing and starting the path, you don't get too complicated and get lost in yourself. And then, of course, have conflict to it. What do you guys do for telling stories in your images? Are those helpful for you? Do you feel like that's a part of your work? Check it on out at Creative Block. That is just the highlights. That's the very short notes of it. There's a lot to be learned, so check it out. Next up on our resources, we have WhisperWeb. WhisperWeb is a cool resource. I know we talk a lot about AI systems lately and AI things, and they all kind of take your data, they send it off to the cloud, they do all the computing, and then they come back to you. WhisperWeb is a browser-based function, and Chris Hoffman from Fast Company reported about a new tool that can help transcribe your voice from the privacy of your own device. WhisperWeb actually downloads and runs OpenAI's Whisper AI model in your browser while you're viewing the web page, and nothing leaves your device. You can then record in your browser, upload a file, or use a URL, and it's completely free. Depending on how fast your computer is determines how long it will take, because it is using your system's resources in order to do this. But it can easily write out your thoughts or documentation if you need to have something in text that is something that is fully audio. I mean, I guess if you wanted to download this podcast and you wanted to upload it and get just a transcript of it, you could easily do that. It'd be interesting to see how people use it. I know personally the text editing based in Premiere. See, I can always wrap it back down to Adobe. The Adobe's Premiere text-based editing transcription is really helpful. So I don't necessarily need this when I'm doing editing of videos. But maybe if I was like in a meeting or something and I needed to write things down and I was worried about the privacy of it, this is good, because then you don't have to worry about it going anywhere else. It just stays within your browser. Speaking of browsers, the Arc browser is officially on Windows. It is a new browser that could rival Chrome, Firefox, Brave, or Microsoft Edge. It's been on Mac for a while, and it has its own dedicated following. It differs from traditional browsers with a sidebar with vertical tabs, and it relies on spaces which are kind of like different profiles or folders. Lawrence Bonk from Engadget reports there's a peek feature that lets you preview links before opening them. But most interestingly, it allows you to customize the web pages that you view. And if you want to make YouTube purple, by all means, make YouTube purple. Make it match file new. And your Chrome extensions also work in Arc, so it isn't as much of a pain to jump between Chrome, which you already have, and Arc. Moving right along, though, let's hop into Ticketbooth while we only have about 15 minutes left. So the Ticketbooth for this week, we have 2 actual things that are not physical events. The first Ticketbooth is a documentary that's coming out next month. And Jim Henson, Idea Man, will release on Disney Plus on May 31st. The film chronicles the creative journey of the famous puppeteer Jim Henson. The film explores the beginnings of the Muppets, Sesame Street, and the Dark Crystal. It has interviews with collaborators and family members. It even explores the collaboration between him and his partner, both creatively and romantically, Jane Henson, and also includes Wilkins and Watkins commercials that were previously lost. They're commercials that he used to work on. They're like drawings. And it's directed by Ron Howard, who you might know from Apollo 13 and Arrested Development. He was a producer on Arrested Development, but I think he directed Apollo 13. But you've got a month to wait for that. Maybe that's too much time. if you're looking for something to watch sooner, you might be interested in a new documentary about New York City photographer James Hamilton. So I learned about this through ArtNet. It is currently showing at the IFC Center and the Sag Harbor Cinema in New York City, and also at the Lamel Royale in Los Angeles. But it will be available everywhere digitally on May 7th, so less than a week. I think that's next Tuesday. And if you are not familiar, James Hamilton has work spanning 4 decades, including war zones, parties, musicians, and mansions. So it's all across the board. He really got a start by being able to leverage a press pass in New York City. Min Chen from ArtNet reported about this, says that he faked a press pass for the Texas International Pop Festival and developed the pictures and submitted them to music magazine Crawdaddy. This then launched his work, and with a string of outlets including the Herald, New York Observer, Harper's Bazaar, and Village Voice from the 1970s to the 2000s. Portraits taken by James Hamilton include Jack Nicholson, James Brown, Patti Smith, Candy Darling, and Andy Warhol. There's actually a story, too, that he once showed up unannounced to Alfred Hitchcock's St. Regis suite with a camera and a press pass, and the director actually invited him in and allowed him to take a few pictures of him, which is what you can see over my shoulder. But then he also photographed conflicts in the Philippines, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Beijing. And then he also brought the conflict imagery back to the Americas and took pictures of different conflicts at home, like protests and civil rights movements. So very educational, important to watch, and something that you could maybe check out. His Muhammad Ali right there. And like I said, that is showing now in some theaters in New York and LA. But if you want to watch it digitally, it'll be available in your home on May 7th. And then the one last ticket booth that we have for you today is 5 emerging galleries to watch at the 2024 New York Art Fair. This is from Maxwell Rab at Artsy. Nada, New York is showing Filipino-Canadian painter Marigold Santos exploring the shape-shifting figure from Filipino folklore. Down in the Lower East Side, Massey Klein Gallery is showing mid-career and emerging artists in the exhibition called Local Realism. Red Arrow Gallery is showing Karen Siepker's work called Dawn Chorus, and it's surrealist paintings. They look very cool. The THK Gallery is showing works by Trevor Sturman, Lula Ma Wolf, Anya Paintil, and Drian Clayson to highlight emerging African art. And Mama Projects is showing tapestries by Mia Wiener, and they are photorealistic textiles. They look really cool. I didn't know how people felt about showcasing art. That's why I am not showing it over my arm. But they have really great pictures of all of these works and galleries to check out right over on Artsy. So make sure you check it out. It's linked in the raindrop, but it's also over my shoulder if you just want to Google 5 emerging galleries to watch at the 2024 New York Art Fairs. Now let's go ahead and hop into Hyperlink. So one of the very first ones that we have is a very colorful one. This is from the Tardigrade, and the Tardigrade is a collective of artists that raise awareness for nature through data visualization, interactive stories, and scientific illustration. Their project, A Lifetime of Change, is a recent web project that adds color to the changing climate of the Earth. It has users put in their birth year, person to compare to, and a projected climate impact. And then as you scroll down, it uses color to display and showcase the difference in the world's temperatures compared to their age. They have a few web projects, as I was saying. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen, and we'll briefly look at this. It is very pretty, has lots of colors, and is available for free. You can see that we go down here, and it has a little talk about the different changes in Celsius. You can then select your birth year, which you guys get to all see that I am 31. So we'll go to 1993, and we will compare it to, let's do Michael Jordan, because that's like how old my parents are. And then we'll say that this is intermediate emissions, and we'll hit start. It will then compare the temperatures with Michael Jordan from age 1 to 100 under the intermediate emissions scenario, and it has me on the side with, when I was born in 1993, first when he was born in 1963. And then as you scroll down, it will go with each year and show you the key of what is the temperature and how it is different between the two of us. It will, every once in a while, pop up with these pieces of information where it says 2023 has been confirmed by the warmest year on record, with global temperatures rising around 1.45 degrees Celsius above the 1850 to 1900 average. And you can just continue, and you can just see how there is a stark change and difference in our realities. And it gets a little hot for me if I make it all the way up to 100. So it's a great way of showing interactiveness using your tools for social change. And yeah, big fan. It looks really cool. And it's very pretty. And you can share it with your friends. Next up, we have another hyperlink for you guys. And this one is if you are feeling lonely. This is for people who maybe are working from home now and you work better with colleagues around. This is maybe also for someone who works from an office now that is empty because everyone else is working from home. Sounds of Colleagues let you create background ambiance, and it is a result of creative collaboration between the advertising agency Famigene Stilm and audio branding agency Red Pipe Studios. It was created as a reaction to strict work from home policies in Sweden during COVID. There is room tone, people, printers, coffee machines, keyboard noises, or even an office dog if you want it. And you can go on there and you can turn it up and turn it down and just play it in the background if you want some ambiance to fill up some space. And then our last hyperlink isn't, I guess, necessarily a hyperlink. It is a video game, but it is a farming simulator that sits on the bottom of your screen. So you can see here in this screenshot that the game comes up to like here, and then like all of this is just free real estate for doing other stuff. So it is an idle farming simulator, meaning that like it's kind of like Farmville, the idea that crops grow and you have different things to take care of, but they take actual durations of time. And you can actually turn on focus mode, which will make things go even slower so that you can focus on things, but then you can check back in and it can play pretty music and sound effects. Time will tell if it is a ADHD aid or a Pandora box of distraction. It has only been out for like, I think a week or so, and it's getting pretty big. I have played it and it's been nice. I definitely have noticed that it can distract me for some things, so we will see when and what it works best for. Maybe it works best for when I'm working on a tedious motion product and I just need a break every now and then, or when something's rendering. It doesn't take much of your CPU, and it's only, I think, like $5 or $6. I think it's a really cool idea. Our way that we interact with games is constantly changing, as you guys know I'm super interested in, and yeah, really, really nice to see. What do you guys think? Do you think this would wreck you, or do you think that this is something that would help you with maybe being able to work longer because you have little breaks in between? All right, we have Rebrand, and we have a few things to get through. Most of these are all from actually Under Consideration's brand new, so big thank you to them. I'm not going to release anything that you have to pay for. They do have a paid subscription, but you can also access a lot of stuff for free. And the very first thing is the Museum of West African Art, and this is designed by Human After All. They went from the thing on the left here to the right. The really cool thing about the design system on the right is that they really move it around and they can repeat it and move different letter forms. I really like the A's and how the incline of the thing that goes across the letter form is also a little bit allude to the M's and the W's as they kind of whip around. And it has a really curvy nature to it, but it's also very strong and angular, which I think is very unique. I haven't really seen many other brands that look like this. And I think that it is very flexible and can be added to a bunch of different ways of designing, and it makes me want to explore more. If you end up checking out brand new Under Consideration, they have it in a lot of examples, but it was behind their paywall, so I don't want to disrespect their payment. I'm sure you can also find it online somewhere, but I found it through them, so that's that. Then also George Mason did a rebrand, and I'm not a fan. I think that it lost a lot of its character. They went for a sans serif away from a serif. I think that the serif adds a lot of regal and adds a lot of like credibility to it. This one doesn't feel as scholarly as the previous version. I like the little wisp too. I mean, I feel like maybe if they wanted to do a refresh, they could have moved the wisp somewhere else, maybe off of the M. But now they're really going towards this GM, I guess, because they want to kind of have the idea of like NYC or, you know, NYU. I know those are both like New York examples. But I think it's a misstep. It's not hideous by any means. Like, it's fine. It's just kind of boring. George Mason University, everybody. And then we have the Kellogg's broke into 2 brands last year. They had Kellanova and WK Kellogg Company. Brunswick Group and XYZ were tasked with creating a typeface for Kellogg's, and it had to be true to the logo everyone knows, but also work with typeface. So XYZ says that they researched the history of Kellogg's packaging and advertising, cross-referencing it with lettering and sign painting manuals from the early 20th century. Open type allows the letter forms to react together in different ways, but they have a really nice write-up, and I think it feels like it rings true to the Kellogg's brand. And it's hard because, yeah, it's always kind of existed, but now they are using it as an actual typeface and not just a one-off for every single time. And then you can see that they even include different ways of how they were experimenting with it, putting in different names and terms. They have Balenciaga at the top there. And they have a good way of showing them actually sketching on. It's a really good example of doing a good case study, especially for something as tedious as a typeface, and making someone who does not design typefaces want to read and look into it fully. And then we only have a few minutes left, so let's hop into our last segment, which is Spotlight. Last one is the update on the Flipbook experiment. The Flipbook experiment was something that we reported on about 2 weeks ago or something like that. And basically it required people to go and trace what the previous artists had created on a website, and then they put it all together to create a final Flipbook animation to just show kind of what all these people did. This was from The Pudding is what it is. I'm once again going to share my screen. You guys will be able to see kind of the interface of it all. The Flipbook experiment looked like this. The result was 22,454 drawings. And you can watch the full drawing, which is 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Obviously, we do not have time for that. But you can watch it on YouTube. You can see that it starts as a circle and then very quickly turns into a squiggly thing. For whatever reason, it goes up into the top right and stays there for pretty much the duration of it, and doesn't really ever kind of go back to circle in the sense of what it is. It looks like it tries to get inappropriate a few times, but it doesn't ever get there fully. And you can watch the whole thing if you want to watch it for 8 minutes and 37 seconds. It is there for you and your entertainment. Just something to check out. And then we're just at about time, so I guess we only have time to share like one more thing. Drum roll. Names to know: the 20 visionaries shaping the future of creativity. This is coming from Creative Boom. They are walking through the creative stars' challenging conversations and shaping the future across the US and Europe through the remarkable work. You can check that out as a link in our page. We also have a cool article from It's Nice That, which is exploring the work of Ente Lee's animations to show how subjective our experience of nature really is. And there are these cool animations that scroll across, like the one that's over my shoulder is actually showing one that is clouds that also look like trees as they kind of make their way across the image. And that's pretty much what we have for today for our show. Once again, my name is Ryan Selvy. You can find me online at Ryan Selvy, RyanSelv. I'm mostly active, I guess, on Instagram and Blue Sky. Blue Sky, I am ryanselvy.com. I want to say thank you to everyone that tuned in and hung out. I will be taking this record and put it into podcast for you guys later. But thank you to everyone that came in and commented. Once again, follow us as a podcast on Spotify or iTunes. And if you want to contribute anything, suggestions, feedback, please leave a comment on YouTube. Please give it a thumbs up on YouTube, and shoot me an email at filenewshow@gmail.com. You can always get back to File New episodes by going to filenewshow.com. It will just redirect you directly to YouTube for you, and you'll be able to catch up on any episodes that are directly on YouTube. And you guys should stay tuned because we've got plenty more Adobe Live coming up. We will be back again next week on Monday, and it will be a rather quiet day on Adobe Live. There's only one other show, but we'll be back on this Monday. So I will see you all in, what is that? 5 days? 5 days? 4.5 days? 5 days? Regardless. I hope you guys don't miss me too much. Thank you for watching, and we will see you all real soon. Bye!